Hi everyone. The pandemic and the climate discussion have much in common. I think I've been talking about that before, but anyway, I'm going to talk about that today as well. Those who push the narratives around those two topics, very big topics, they tend to, whether it's the mainstream narrative, which is the big one, of course, and the one that is most often conveyed by the media and the politicians, leading politicians, or is another group of people, another part of society pushing another different narrative. They both, whether it's the one or the other narrative, it's often portrayed as if it were a matter of facts, as if it were a matter of who is in the right and who is in the wrong. There's a right narrative, there's a correct narrative, and we are, of course, those who are pushing it are saying that we are in the right. We are in the right corner of this playing field here, and so the other ones are ostracized. They're in the wrong. We ostracize those people because we have the facts. But that's not how it is. It's not about the facts. Not generally speaking. It's too simplified. It's not about who is right or who is wrong. This is what it is. It is a blame game. It's a blame game where fear is the fuel. So I think that we on a collective level here need some CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. Because we need to see things for what they are. See neutrally, see clearly. It's not rational and it's not beneficial for us to be afraid, to be scared. Because often they even say, especially the mainstream narrative people, they picture it as if it's a big problem that there are a lot of people who don't even accept that these things are real. They don't even believe there is a virus. It's terrible. They don't even believe there is global warming. It's terrible. The number of people who are not actually accepting that this is happening, they are a marginally small number of people. We don't even have to talk about those people. Why should we talk about a marginal number of people who have an extreme opinion about things? That's pointless. That's not what it's about. But it's very easy to point to those people and say that that's the problem. That's why you have to be in this corner and join the fear, so to speak, the blame game, where fear is the fuel. No, we have to embrace what is, because in cognitive behavioral therapy, it is very important, as you may know. Well, I'm not, of course, an expert, but as far as I understand, it's very important to convey to the subject, to therapy, that they should see things neutrally and accept and see it for what it is, and not overthink it and not blow it up in their minds, because they tend to blow things up in their minds, and this is exactly what's happening on the collective level, and that's the problem that we have. That's the big problem. See it neutrally, see what's happening. Okay, there's a problem. Act when you have to, act the way you need to, but don't act all the time. Don't act if you don't have to act, because in some instances, in both of these matters, we don't need to act. I happen to be among those who are not extremely afraid of neither the virus nor the global warming, but I know they're happening, they're here. We have to take certain measures, of course. We should do that. But we shouldn't panic, like some famous activists say about the global warming, for instance. We should never panic. That's the worst thing to do when you want to take wise and loving and effective measures. So embrace what is and act when you have to. That's what we need to see here. The scaremongers, they of course have ample possibilities, ample examples they can use if they want to scare people even more. There are always examples of people, for instance, when it comes to the virus, the pandemic, that have been extremely sick from this virus. You can find thousands of them, of course. It's not difficult. they're there. But I mean, hundreds and hundreds of millions of people have been infected by this virus, and it's not hundreds of millions of people who have been extremely sick. But you can always find these extreme examples of people who have been. I mean, those are terrible examples. There are always terrible examples on the individual level. Have always been in all history, and will always be. There will always be extreme examples of sad events and terrible happenings. So they can point to those people and say, look at this. This is what we want to avoid. And that's why we have to lock down the whole society. Or when it comes to global warming, they can point at there's always happening some kind of terrible flash flood or a terrible storm, and they point to that and say, oh, look, this is what's going to happen if we don't stop driving our cars or producing things in our factories. You know what I mean? So it's always possible to find those examples. And then the leaders say, politicians, leaders of organizations, editors, whatever, they say, people are scared when they see these things. We have to take people's worry seriously. We have to take people's worry seriously. Okay, yeah, but where did that worry come from in the first place? Where did it come from in the first place? They didn't come from their own minds just popping up like that, because they don't see the danger in there. Most people don't see that danger in their nearest vicinity. So the fearmongers spread the fear, and then they say that we have to take the fear seriously. So it's an ongoing, spiral. It's a perpetuum mobile. And I always say that to get a fair and honest and good representation of what's happening in the world, you can only go by trends and averages. Trends and averages. That's the only thing you can look at if you want to have a fair and honest and good view of what's happening in the world. You can never use anecdotal evidence, never use circumstantial evidence, isolated events to understand what is happening on a broader scale in the world. That's impossible. And sadly enough, that is what so much of, for instance, journalism is based on, because it's dramatic. It's not intellectually honest to do that, but it's happening so often. So we need to step out of the blame game. Step out of the blame game, see things for what they are, and act when we have to. We're here together. We're wise. We're loving. We can do this. Okay, have a nice week now. Love you. Bye.